Well, I think that if one's question is blame, what you have got to look at is where it all started. And after all, the whole thing started in the Bogside area. And then it escalated from there. Quite clearly, there is a Republican or a sinister element at work which is organizing these affairs in the Bogside and elsewhere.
This is Londonderry. This is Londonderry on the day of the Apprentice Boys' March. The police are now a quarter of a mile inside the Bogside area. This here is Harvey Street. They've been moved in here after sustaining for some 2 hours a hail of stones from people on the Bogside side of the barricades. The day here started peacefully enough when the Apprentice Boys marched around the city to celebrate the 280th anniversary of the relief of Londonderry.
What is it?
I don't know, somebody was throwing stones or bottles and the barricade went up. I've just come since the barricade went up. But I don't see why people standing outside it. You know, fair enough, the men can stand outside it if they're not going to run. But you can't, if the police come down here. Christ, you should know my opinion about the police in Derry by now.
Yeah, right. What are you telling me behind the barricades for then?
Christ, many times I have to spell it out to you. I am not asking you to hide behind the barricades. I am asking you to get A, the women, and B, the children, who when the police in charge.
You're on it again?
Everybody, Joe. Do it any way you want. Wait, we get the fun of this stick. Look, we always get the fun of this stick.
You're on the air. You're on the air.
Everybody, Joe. Well, we always get the fun of this stick, don't we? We always get the fun of this.
It's now nearly 2 hours since the march ended. For the past hour and a half, people from the other side of the police lines there have been throwing an almost hail of stones towards the police. The police haven't moved forward. They've stood there with their shields and with their batons, but so far there's been no approach into the area. The police have just made their first baton charge. They're now inside the Bogside area. But the crowds are pushing them back. There's been another fusillade of stones flying into the police, who so far are standing their ground, but for the first time they've taken to throwing the stones back into the crowds.
Come back up here, boys. Come up here. Come on, back up. Come on, back up, please. Come on. Back up. Quickly, up quickly. Up quickly. Hold it here.
The police armoured car, with the shields where the police are hiding behind, had just been hit by a Molotov cocktail. The people are moving forward. The Molotov cocktail is lying on the road underneath the armoured car. The armoured car is now on fire, both on the bonnet and on the boards where the driver would get in. The police are trying to get people from inside.
This is the Falls Road area of Belfast at 7 o'clock this evening. The buildings that you can see blazing have been set on fire by Catholics who are trying to roast out the Protestant snipers who've been shooting from the rooftops during the day.
Standing. Good, my pub, my daddy's pub. True, Scott.
After Ulster's first relatively quiet night for a week and a peaceful day, troops patrolling the trouble spots in Londonderry and here in Belfast had been ordered to unfix their bayonets and exchange their steel helmets for soft berets. In some locations, troops have also put away their machine guns. But peaceful though the situation appears for the moment to be, the Prime Minister, Major Chichester Clark, said the tragedy of the past week's events is that they have set people of all persuasions at each other's throats. He said this at a press conference at Stormont this afternoon. Leonard Parkin was there.
Well, the Prime Minister has gone some way to preparing the ground for his meeting with Mr. Wilson on Tuesday, probably, in London, by letting us know the extent of his government's thinking in a fair amount of detail about this crisis which has been taking place in Ulster here during the last few days. He's made it clear that there can be no coalition, as he put it, as long as there's no community of interest between his government and the members of the opposition in Parliament. He's made it clear that he thinks that the pace of reform going on in this country at the moment is going on fast enough. He's answered the question, why blame the Catholics for what has happened? He's made another very bitter attack on the Irish government. Squalid was the word he used, and another word he also used was revolution. And he's spoken of the serious consequences of what has happened during the past few days here in Ulster as setting people of all persuasions at each other's throats.
In this grave situation, the behaviour of the Dublin government has been deplorable, and it has been tailor-made to inflame opinion on both sides. The moving of army units, the calling up of reserves, the absurd approaches for United Nations intervention have all been moves of almost incredible clumsiness and ineptitude. I am glad to say that Dr. Hillary returned to his department in Dublin from his visit to the Foreign Office after what he himself described as a polite but very firm brush-off. These manoeuvres, in ordinary circumstances, would be merely comic, but in the present inflamed atmosphere, they represent a gamble with people's lives. And I think that it is a very squalid business, and all that the Dublin government has done is to convince us for all time that we must look elsewhere for our friends. We held out our hand to them as good neighbours. They have behaved much like those hooligans who have used the present troubles as an excuse to burn their neighbours out.
The Prime Minister was asked where he would put the blame for what's been happening in Ulster.
Well, I think that if one's question is blame, what you have got to look at is where it all started. And after all, the whole thing started in the Bogside area. And then it escalated from there. The Bogside area is predominantly Catholic. And quite plainly, the first shootings in Belfast were against the peace, as you've just heard. And while I'm not suggesting for one moment that every Catholic is an enemy of this state, far from it. I'm sure that 99.9% want to live in peace with everybody. Quite clearly, there is a Republican or a sinister element at work which is organizing these affairs in the Bogside and elsewhere.
Pope Paul today made his first comment on what's been happening here in Ulster. He said he upheld the demands for equal rights by Roman Catholics, but he condemned the use of violence to obtain them. He hoped for justice and peace in Ulster. Dr. George Sims, the Archbishop of Armagh and Primate of the Church of Ireland, said in a sermon that if people keep silent when there are wrongs to be righted, disaster and damage follow. In Belfast this morning, the streets were quiet as people of all denominations in the Shankhill, Falls and Crumlin Roads area threaded their way around barricades to attend church. Last night, although there was no repetition of the pitched battles of the previous nights, there had been several minor incidents. But since dawn, the city's been quiet. Bus services have been resumed on streets that are not blocked, and in a few parts, police and troops have started to remove the barricades erected by residents. To the south of Belfast, in the city of Armagh, the funeral was held today for John Patrick Gallagher, who was shot in the street on Friday. Hundreds of his fellow Catholics attended the service in the cathedral and accompanied the cortege to the cemetery. Gallagher was the first of the 8 people to die in Ulster in the recent riots. He was shot in the chest and head during a clash between Catholics and Protestants late at night. Mr. Gallagher leaves a widow and 3 children. The funerals of some of the 7 people killed in Belfast in the riots will be held tomorrow. That's it for now from Ulster. Let's go now to Gordon Honeycomb in London.
Here in London, there have been demonstrations and marches supporting the civil rights movement in Ulster. Hundreds of protesters met at Shepherd's Bush Green in West London. Earlier, loudspeaker cars had toured the area, one of London's many Irish strongholds, urging support for the Ulster Civil Rights Solidarity campaign. And in case of trouble, there were St John ambulance men with a mobile hospital and a large contingent of police. The crowd later marched to Hyde Park for a rally.